Yeah.
Marhaba and hello once again to our brothers and sisters around the world, friends of the Palestinian cause of justice under the Israeli apartheid regime, which has been continuing a dispossession of their people for 75 years and more. Today is Monday, July 10th, 2023, and we always ask up front, well, as you hear the conditions in Gaza from Muhammad himself today, that our mission is to see the world with Palestinian eyes from where they live, confined and imprisoned in Gaza, for us to see and get to know their humanity and their right, their human right to justice, and to get points of view never heard before on their history, on their contemporary issues and way of life, and so forth. So, Mohammed, welcome once again, and thank you for being with us. I'm historian Jack Dempsey, by the way, and Muhammad Ismael, living in Deir al Balah in Gaza, is a Palestinian historian and writer. We connected through our books, and we've been wonderful friends ever since. And as a quick note, finally, as I just go on for a moment, as usual, we ask people three things as you hear the conditions today: write to your own government, contact your own government, and demand change in policy that supports this unspeakable oppression and cruelty. Second, BDS, boycott, divest, and sanctions. Do not buy products from the occupied territories. Look out instead for Palestinian olive oil and other really beautiful products that they produce. It would mean the world to them. And third, speaking of meaning the world to them, is family to family. There's information here below with the video that talks about how you can get directly in touch through Muhammad with other Palestinian people living in Gaza, families, individuals, whatever you wish. And you could work out a way through Western Union, no big banks, no NGOs, to send them a little help. Imagine you're thinking, oh, $5 a month for aspirin is nothing, but to them it's the world. When they have a toothache, a terrible headache from the bombing, uh, it's such a little thing maybe to us in the free world, so to speak, as we still manage to call it, but it's the world to them. So please don't underestimate that. Mohammed, then I'd like to again welcome you. Sorry for the long intro, but we always like to pack that good information in there. Tell us first, my wife and I have been helping your family to improve your living conditions, and I wonder how you're doing with that. It's in its kind of final phases, and it sounds like most of the family, your two beautiful daughters, your son and your wife, are enjoying moving in.
Hello, brother.
Hello.
Hello, all our friends who are watching us from all over the world. I am happy to be talking with you again. In fact, brother, uh, depending on your help and on Angela help, your generous wife and my darling sister, we used to enhance our house. Before Jack and Angela help, we were living inside one single room. We were crowded inside this room like the sardines who are who are crowded inside the can. Uh, Now we have a wide house. As you can see, it consists of three rooms,
Wow. Look at
and
that.
and we have and we
How,
have kitchen,
how beautiful.
and we have yeah, and we have uh,
Thank you for the
kitchen, and we
tour.
have bathroom. Yeah, yeah. Maybe I give you a panoramic view for
Yes,
the house.
fantastic.
Now we have a very, very good place of living. In fact, this uh, enhanced our psychological situation, alleviated our suffering, our stress, our depression. Now we have some fresh air coming through windows, coming through doors. Now I can have a better future for my children. They can join school, they can have their desks, they can study, read stories, do their homework
Yes.
freely. and in an optimistic way. So
Yes.
all of this, in fact, happened through the generous help of my brother Jack and my darling sister Angela. All of my life, I will be grateful for them for this help. I will never forget what they did for the sake of
And
me
and
and my children
and
and my
Muhammad,
wife. Yeah.
Muhammad, I just want to mention too that you have a book out now that, well, with some of the release of anxiety about how you were living, you were able to complete a book called Fedai. Is that right? It's about
Yeah, and the sea.
modern age Palestinian people, factual accounts, and their relationship with the sea. And it's a very powerful little book of stories that has been greatly appreciated by the community in Gaza. So I congratulate you on that too. I'd like to mention quickly, people, if you want to see how grateful my wife and I are, how happy we are to have been able to help this happen, go to Jack Dempsey Writer at WordPress.com. Jack Dempsey Writer at WordPress.com. You will see quite wonderful pictures, all of them taken by Muhammad and his family, of how they started out when they were living and we first got to be friends. And you can see just an amazing transformation right there. We'll put some pictures of that stuff up on the website too, so people can see the whole project. But if I'm glowing at all with this, my wife shares it. We are so happy to be able to reach over the goddamn walls of Gaza and help people directly. That's what this does, and it's entirely in terms up to you. Okay, so Mohammed, the biggest topic in the news has been the other side of Palestine, the occupied territories, and especially in the northern end of that, where Jenin and Nablus are. There has been, I promise you, a very wide spectrum of coverage about it. And if I can mention one in particular, there's a program called the Middle East Eye, EYE, Middle East Eye. There's a journalist and diplomat there called Hassan Zomlot, Zomlot. This is the Middle East Eye program for July 6th, season 2, episode 1. You can run that back there and get that info again. But this guy reports, Muhammad, that in his opinion, and he's very, very seasoned with the whole spectrum of the discussion, everything is backwards. He says it so succinctly. If you watched so much of the mainstream coverage of what happened in Jenin, you would think that the Palestinians are the invaders and the Israelis are the victims.
Yes, yes, brother. Yes, brother. In fact, world media, especially the Western media, are showing what happened in Jenin and West Bank and generally in the Palestinian territory. They show it, unfortunately, like upside down image. You see everything upside down. Unfortunately, they doesn't respect the ethics of journalism. I think journalism should has some sort of ethics, and unfortunately, they doesn't respect those ethics. Always, they are shedding light on the Palestinian primitive rockets, some crazy conducts for Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and the other military groups. But on the other side, they hide everything conducted by Israel, by the Israeli army. Unfortunately, always we have depression, we have some sort of like frustration from this foreign media, the Palestinians. They doesn't make any sort of neutrality when they speak or when they cover the news in the Palestinian territories.
Yes, and I have a kind of a note based on my preparation for the program too, Mohammed, though. my impression is that it's getting better. It is where you see it much more clear now what the real historically situated dynamics of the struggle are, right? This isn't just an overnight clash of civilizations. It hasn't been going on for thousands of years. Quite the opposite, with a mosque, a temple, and a church in almost every Palestinian village before 1948, right? It seems as though the coverage is getting a little bit more sympathetic to the Palestinians because it's just such a one-sided, invasive, and brutal regime. 190 Palestinians died in the first 6 months of this year. And it just goes on and on as if Israel, all they have is violence. And then an army of liars come out to try to, as you say, reverse the facts and make you look over there instead, whatever. Well, I'll shut up now, but I just want to point out to people that if you spend 10 minutes of digging through your Google, through your browser, through Opera, whatever you happen to use, the Electronic Intifada, Palestine Chronicle, Mondoweiss, Common Dreams, Counterpunch, there are dozens of alternative media sites. Look through them at YouTube under Palestinian, and you'll see that you really can find better and better reportage on what's happening. So that's something to be optimistic about, Mohammed. I guess like we've been working toward the question though of you're in Gaza, you're locked into Gaza. And so are 2.5 million people who must fight to get near a truck for food every day, or when things even come, which they have not been lately. What has the Jenin struggle been bringing out in Gaza? What are you and the people around you talking with each other about? What do they say? What do they feel? What do they want?
Actually, Gaza is always punished, even if the action
That's
is
absolutely
taking
true.
place in West Bank. Always Gaza is punished, even if the action is taking place in Jenin and Nablus and Hebron and Ramallah, etc.
Yes.
Always the Israeli, always the Israeli immediately uh, reply or reaction take place against Gaza and its 2.5 million people. Always we have more strict closure, stopping for the passage of trucks. So there is no food, no medicine, no goods flowing into the local market. Gaza is very crowded with the population. So each day, they should have their needed amounts of bread, of fresh water, of medicine, of vegetables, some sort of closure. Directly, you will see social problems inside Gaza.
Of
And
course.
I am not exaggerating if I say that sometimes we have some sort of famine. People in the normal situation are having one or maximally two meals per day. But when you have those strict closures, I think some families cannot provide their children even one meal
and
per
and
day.
and
So
this cannot this has to be expected because as we've often reminded people of the numbers here, 2.5 million people depend on from 200 to 250 trucks to come into Gaza every day by the permission of the Israelis with food supplies, bottled water because everything else is poison, etc. That means that an average of 12,500 people are competing for the same goods. It mathematically cannot possibly sustain their population. So it's a slow genocide. And I'm going to say it because I'm a historian and I will stand by it and argue for it. In the concentration camps of World War II, where Jews were kept as prisoners and worked until they died, They had a certain ration of bread, maybe 100 grams per day, and they were worked like animals from dawn to dusk. Okay? They were expected to die within 6 to 9 months after they had been worked and worked. They were expected to die. So this has been done. It can be done, and those numbers say that it is being done in Gaza.
Exactly, exactly. The same policy is being implemented against us. Any person in Gaza cannot have his daily serving. I mean his daily calories, his daily average of calories according to the global health organization. I think each person in Gaza has some sort of anemia, has some health problem as a result of the misnutrition. They have misnutrition, bad
Malnutrition.
nutrition. So
Yes.
this, yeah, of course, this makes so many bad consequences on the health situation of Gaza people.
Now,
This
you were
bring
saying to
them
me before,
diseases
so
and
Muhammad, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you were saying to me before that now these conditions are very much worse because of the troubles in Jenin. How are the people in Gaza, the Palestinians in Gaza, experiencing the trouble in Jenin? What is happening to them because of it?
As I told you, always after each action take place in West Bank, directly we uh, uh, we wait some sort of reaction against Gaza, not against West Bank.
Did
So
Hamas did
this is
Hamas launch
nothing new.
rockets? Did Hamas launch rockets
No,
out of
no,
Gaza?
no. This time they didn't launch rockets,
I
but
see.
we had some marches in the streets.
Yes,
Some people used to make marches just to express their uh,
of course.
anger.
Yes.
Yeah, for what happened in Jenin. Everything was peacefully, but we hadn't any kind of rocket launching.
So Gaza, in a sense, is under attack through the strangling of its food and living supplies. You said the trucks are backed up for miles at the gates where they are allowed through one at a time per day, but they are not coming through the way they should. Everything is very expensive in the marketplace. And as you've said before, the reality daily of Palestinian people is that you have a meal, perhaps, and the first thing in your head is, okay, now I got to start working on where I'm going to get my next meal. You have only 8 hours a
Yeah,
day of electricity, so you cannot freeze or keep cold or preserve, especially well, perishable goods. So it's a war. Is Gaza being attacked by the military now because of Jenin? And what are Palestinian people around you saying about it?
yeah. As I told you right now, Israel doesn't make any provocation for Gaza military groups.
Yeah,
And on the other side, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, doesn't make any military reaction for what happened in Jenin. As I told you, everything is going peacefully. Only we have some official statements from Islamic Jihad,
of course.
Hamas, and beside that, we have some demonstrations in the streets. But right now, there is no military reaction. But we are waiting to see what will happen. Some people are predicting that maybe it's the turn of Gaza. Maybe in the coming weeks, we will have some sort of provocation for the violence of Gaza military groups, and this will lead Gaza to another war. Some people are predicting this, but for me personally, I don't think so. I think Gaza people are very, very tired, very exhausted, and I think Israel has no interest in making any clash with Gaza. I think their next clash will be with the Hezbollah, on the borders with Lebanon,
Yes.
or again and again with Jenin and Nablus. I think their compass is going to the north, to the northward, not to the southward. So I think they will continue beating West Bank and especially Jenin and Nablus.
So the conflict with Hezbollah is very old. And the Northern Gateway,
Yeah.
I once asked you, what is the significance of Jenin as a strategic place on the map, let us say, on the landscape? And you were explaining to me that its location allows traffic to go a certain way more freely than any other part of the landscape, and hills and valleys and so forth. This is a thoroughfare of the region, and the control of it is very important, especially if you're going to launch operations toward the north. So do you think Israel is looking for or is ready to take up against Hezbollah again? Because they are a formidable army.
Yeah, I think that Jenin hasn't the most prominent strategic value in West Bank. I think the most the most prominent strategic value goes for
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm
Kalkilia,
sorry, Muhammad's signal is always breaking up. These are the conditions under which
city. Kalkilia,
these are the conditions under which we try to communicate to the world the Palestinian point of view. A needless low bandwidth in Gaza itself, and it has bothered our program many times. I hope you'll excuse it. Muhammad, please continue. I'm sorry to interrupt, but your signal was breaking up very badly. We could not understand you.
Yes, brother. I am sorry too. I think the most prominent strategic value is not the one of Jenin, but I think the most prominent strategic value goes for Kalkilia, and Kalkilia is locating on the westernmost point of West Bank. It locates just 3 miles to the eastward of Tel Aviv. If you try to open fire or to launch a primitive rocket directly, you will hit the center of Tel Aviv city. So Kalkilia is the most dangerous if you want to speak about the strategic situation. Jenin is not the most prominent according to the strategic and the mapping of the struggle.
So is that place
Jenin,
is that Mohammed, is that place under Palestinian control now or under Israeli control now?
yeah, of course.
What?
Yeah, of course. Kalkilia is controlled by PA. It's a total Palestinian city,
Okay.
and it locates only 14. It locates only 14 kilometers from the Mediterranean shore. So it's very, very close to the Mediterranean,
Yes.
and it locates directly to the east yard of Tel Aviv. Yeah.
So do
But I
you
think
expect Israeli actions there next, perhaps? Is that what people in Gaza are saying?
I don't think so, because Kalkilia is a calm city. It has a little number of militants, and I think the military groups doesn't attend in this city strongly. But if you want to speak about Jenin, Jenin not only now, but since the 30s of the last century, in fact, Jenin was the cradle of Palestinian resistance in West Bank, because most of the pioneers who fought against the British mandate and the Zionist militias were coming from Jenin. And we have the most prominent one was called As-Sadi, Sheikh As-Sadi. He was one of the most prominent warriors who fought against the British mandate. Even Izzeddin al-Qassam, the Syrian fighter who came from Syria to Palestine, when he decided to make a camp, in fact, he decided to camp in Jenin, and he decided to fight against the British mandate from Jenin. So Jenin, since 90 years, since 30s of the last century, was the cradle of resistance. It's like a garrison. It's like a military base. Always Jenin is a troublemaker for the Israeli army, and before that for the British army during the mandate.
I see. So one other thing that comes out of the coverage that I've been able to catch is that it's such futility. It's useless. It's so much like, well, I'm an American of that generation, the Vietnam War. No matter what the force, the great army does, they make it worse. If that is your only solution to problems, then you are guaranteed you are going to make it worse. And this seems to be their only approach. So why cannot people see this and try to move beyond it? Do you think Palestinians in Gaza would be prompted to desire and to ask for new elections? Is there any hope of new leadership for the Palestinians?
In fact, this is the hope of millions of people, whether in Gaza or in West Bank. But unfortunately, there is a very, very huge gap between hope and reality.
Can you,
I
Muhammad,
think
can you carefully describe what is in the way? Tell us what is blocking the way to new elections exactly as you can.
yeah, I told you previously in many programs before that we have a universal veto. This veto doesn't come from PA or from Hamas or from some Arab countries. This
Okay.
veto is coming from the superpower countries, from European Union, USA, etc. They doesn't need this democratic practice. They doesn't need Palestinian election to be held again in the future. They
Because
put a strong veto.
the last time they allowed that, and it was a perfectly observed and true election, they said, the Palestinian people elected Hamas because
Exactly.
Hamas was providing the human services, bringing in medicine and
Exactly.
supplies and protecting them and so forth, doing real things for the people, which is quite different now, right? They don't do that almost any at
Yeah,
all,
yeah, yeah,
and neither does the PA, right? The PA has never
yeah.
looked worse, Palestinian Authority, in front of its own people for standing by and allowing what happened in Jenin, right? So
Exactly.
there must be a new energy among the Palestinian people for new leadership. They can see that this is a dead end, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course, exactly. Unfortunately, they put a strong veto. They refuse to let Palestinians decide their future, elect or choose their leaders, their parliament members. Uh, in fact, I blame both. I blame the American administration and I blame also the European Union because, as I mentioned previously, they are donating a horrible amounts of millions of dollars for some corrupted oligarchs, whether in West Bank or in Gaza, see one single dollar from those donations. And here I am putting a very huge exclamation mark. Why? Why you are supporting PA and Hamas, and always you listen some voices from Palestine, from other Arab countries that those people are corrupted, they are thieves. Why you don't make some investigation, some monitoring, just to monitor where those money go? Why you don't make this sort of monitoring?
Because
Each
it's
month,
definitely, that money is not reaching you. That money is not reaching the Palestinian people to create jobs with and to build an economy. They're not allowed to do anything.
if this money reach the Palestinian people who deserve this money, I think we will never have a problem in electricity. We will never have a
For
problem in
example,
water, clean water. I think
two
we have.
examples.
Yeah, yeah. Why right now we haven't a restoration field for water? Why we doesn't make some sort of uh, uh, restoration for this water, just to clean it and make it proper for human usage?
And
Why?
a handful of kilometers away from Gaza, outside the border and the fence and the weapons, are Israeli homes with swimming pools.
Yeah, yeah, and besides that, they have some water games like artificial cascades, waterfalls, and
Water parks.
etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes I used to watch these things through the Israeli TV. They are making some artificial cascades in
Yes.
Niagara,
Yes.
like Niagara waterfalls, and I used to ask myself why we have this situation. Why? Because simply we have a corrupted leaders, and we have, unfortunately, unjust world. The governments, unfortunately, doesn't look with us with the eye of justice, of mercy, unfortunately. And always I ask myself why European Union is helping PA with the monthly billions, millions of euros, and they doesn't send one single representative just to make some sort of a checking, just to see where this money go, where
Yes.
this money go.
Yes. So, Mohammed, as our time goes down, I want to thank you very much for letting us see this period of time from the perspective of the Gazan people, one of whom you are. And we love your family. And I think everything you're saying, Mohammed, points right toward what we say most often in the program. We ask people, well, what can I do? Here it is. Write, contact your own government, demand changes that alter and create justice for Palestinian people. Second, practice BDS. Don't buy products or support businesses that operate in the occupied territories, and try family to family. Because as you get to know Gazan Palestinians directly, right over all the walls that surround them, you're just going to glow, as I think I was earlier in this program. Next time, Mohammed, we're going to talk from your expertise in a book by a very important man named Benjamin Netanyahu. And we are going to explore what is on the mind of this man who is heading up the entire Israeli apartheid system right now, and with great energy and alacrity and eagerness to make sure that this injustice continues. The last time he was in the United States Congress stood up and clapped for him, I think 48 times during one speech, where, of course, he was complaining about Iran. But Mohammed, be that as it may, stay together, stay safe, and stay hopeful, because the world is listening more every day. Anything you'd like to close with today, Mohammed?
No, brother, I think that's good. We talked about good topic today. I think next time we have to talk about Benjamin Netanyahu's important book, Israel and the World, a place among the nations. It's a very, very important book, and we have to read it deeply, and we have to link between its content and what happened now currently on land.
Yes, because this book, by the way, as we close, this came out in 1993, I believe, and it really does present, as I've been reading through it as best I can, his vision for that landscape, his vision for the future of the Jewish people on that landscape, and his entire world of beliefs and sometimes facts and assumptions that underwrite his view of the history there, which automatically entitles them and only them to that landscape. We'll take up those ideas next time, Muhammad. I'm looking forward to it because it's going to be quite an interesting test to see how those ideas from 30 years ago have played out in action now. And we'll go from there. Thank you, my brother. Be well, stay safe, and we'll talk with you very soon.
Okay, thank you, brother. Thank you so